Aren't you giving the golden sauce?
Hi, folks, and welcome to another Wednesday session in partnership with our partner channel, Iron Shield. Today's topic is something that we can explore in depth because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to the concept of democracy as such, especially in the Middle East. And there's a nation in the middle, very, very small in terms of if I say from a geographical point of view, that maybe stands out as the place where there is some democracy. So we will try to figure it out what sort of democracy there is in Israel and why is it working well, although there are issues, of course. We'll try to see what's not working perfectly and what can be done about that. And also why the neighbor countries cannot replicate it and what's going on their end. Maybe they can adopt a different version of democracy. So we will use that as a starting point, and as usual, we will explore whatever comes in our way. So, guys, if you are into these sort of topics, stay around for the next 90 minutes. If you know someone who is into this sort of conversation, share. And if you want to show how satisfied you are with the stuff we have delivered over the last 2 months, please press the like button below. So I will pass the ball to my co-host Marco, and he will give you additional insights on what are we here for.
Good evening to all our friends around the world. This evening we're going to be having a look at democracy in Israel. Democracy in Israel is something very much which should, in theory, excuse me, function along the lines we are accustomed to in the Western world. Indeed, it does function along these lines. Israel is an oasis in an anti-democratic desert. We need to point that out. So there are many similarities with Israeli and European democracies, both for better and for worse. And we see this especially in these tumultuous times where things have become rather confused and where the separation of the powers isn't something we can take for granted anymore. Now, in order to examine these propositions, we have three important guests this evening: Niram Ferretti, an Italian political analyst; Professor Ugo Volli, a professor of philosophy and also a political analyst; and Erez Modai, an international business lawyer and political analyst. Now, I'm going to start with Erez, and I'd like to delve immediately into Israeli democracy, because it seems to me of late, and I say of late in inverted commas, because I think the problem goes back much further. Democracy in Israel isn't really functioning as it should be. What do you say about that? I'm throwing the ball straight at you, Erez.
First of all, a spoiler to Vitor's question: why can't these principles be implemented in what we call the jungle of the Middle East? We sometimes refer to ourselves as the villa in the jungle. They can't be applied because it's a question of culture, which is something I've studied a lot. If you have a different culture which is not oriented towards democracy and equality and things like that, outside, excuse me, external intervention will not help. Trying to force it, like in freedom, Iraqi freedom, like in other places who try to enforce democracy. It doesn't work if it doesn't align with the cultural DNA of the country. And as someone who looks west for values, I will mention France, who had the French Revolution under the slogan equality, fraternity, and freedom. And 10 years after that, crowned Caesar, Napoleon, because it wasn't aligned with the DNA of the culture. It took centuries. Now, having spoiled the whole discussion by giving the one of the let's call it the conclusions, I want to open two windows. The first window is into the democracy, the Israeli democracy. Israel has always looked west for democracy, for values, although many, some say the majority of its population originates in totalitarian countries. Many of them are the surrounding Arab countries. Now, Israel chose the way of democracy. Its scroll of independence states that Israel is a Jewish country, but still extends a hand of peace to all its neighbors and minorities inside it. Over the years, as the country is looking west, the judicial system and the legislation has adopted many principles from great democracies such as England, such as the United States, such as European countries that focused on personal liberties, human rights, and civil rights. And as in such countries, in some cases, in some instances, the judicial system, or actually the Supreme Court, can reject a law because, for example, it's unconstitutional. In the United States, you can see it. Then these principles started to get embedded in the Israeli judicial perception or concepts. Now, the first window I'd like to open is the window to the type of values and the background to them. When the United States was established, and it declared in its Bill of Rights and its Constitution that it upholds the rights of the individual, human rights, it was as a counteraction to the British rule of the United States. In Britain, similar principles were enacted as counteraction to the rule of the monarchy and of the ruling classes. And as part of them, as part of the implementation of these principles, the preservation of human and individual rights was established in order to prevent the stronger party, which is the collective, the country, the government that has, some say, extensive powers over the judiciary process, powers to arrest people, powers to not give a license to a newspaper, etc., etc. Those had to be balanced. Usually by the judiciary system. There are the checks and balances in the United States. There's the Supreme Court in England, and those are made to guard individual from the aggressive, sometimes brutal collective, like we've seen in Germany in the 30s. Now, that's the window into the concepts of the Israeli democracy, which in many fields leads the way in terms of giving judicial rights to foreigners, to illegal immigrants, and sometimes, many times actually, sometimes 1,200 times a year, to foreign NGOs financed by who knows who, sometimes forces that are against the principles of Jewish Israel and the right of the Jewish people to independence in the land of Israel. So our judiciary system has led the way. We don't have a constitution, but we do have what is called base rules, base laws, or fundamental laws, which were intended to form some sort of constitutional legislation and pave the way to future legislation, future constitution, by way of enacting it part by part. Let's say. Now the window into, let's say the window outside from the judicial system. As our judicial system looks west for the rules, for the norms, for the principles, for the values, it had gotten to the point where it has developed what I see as tunnel vision. They are so focused on the individual that they miss the public, they miss the state, they miss the collective, they miss society. And usually this discussion we have around the rights of individual Arabs in the Jewish democracy, or let's call it Israel, for reasons that I will get to in a minute. But I would like to talk about something different. Israel used to have a physically open border with Egypt. Through this border came thousands, tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands of people who wanted to live better, which is reminiscent of why the people who called themselves Palestinians came back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s of the 20th century. These people were always invoke the status of refugees, even though they, as a rule, burn their passports before crossing the border, so that it doesn't that it isn't discovered that they are in fact that they come in fact from countries who have no reason to give them status of refugees, such as Senegal, such as Kenya, such as Egypt, and the others. These people basically want to come to live better. Many of them are Muslims. Some of them aren't. And to a large extent, they were accepted in Israel because of the Jewish people's, I don't want to say weakness, but sensitivity to persecuted minorities. The problem was that, like the villa in the jungle, there's incompatibility between Israeli culture and self-image, and between those illegal immigrants who came just because there wasn't much of a fence between Israel and Egypt. and that started so difficult social problems. To touch on a few instances, and a woman from Eritrea was killed by her husband because quote unquote, she thought she was Israeli. Okay, she thought she was Israeli. Her husband didn't, and that was enough reason to kill her with a rock to the head. Example number two. Holocaust survivor, 90 something years old, got into some kind of friendship with an illegal immigrant, and she gave him food, she invited him for meals, and he decided to kill her with an iron bar. Now, that is not an insulated incident, but also an incident of a prostitute that was not only raped by six people from Eritrea, but also battered by them to the extent that she's now paralyzed and basically a vegetable, for years. Now, it's not that Israeli Jews don't do crimes and other despicable things. The point is that in one country in one city with a large immigrant society, murder rate rose by 50%. So it is very clear there's a very good statistical fit between such crimes and danger to the local population, Jewish and non-Jewish, by those people. When the problem became serious, or more serious than thought of before, the Israeli government proposed a plan to send them back to either their countries or the countries that they came from, or third countries. One of these NGOs I talked before immediately filed a petition with the High Court, with the Supreme Court of Justice, and immediately put a stop to the plan. And the honorable Supreme judges didn't come with a solution. They just said, not that. So it took, I think, years, and the government came up with a second plan, better than the first one, for the immigrants, for the illegal immigrants. The story just repeated itself again. In the third time, which included giving the immigrants not only incentives and compensation, not only taking all the money that they illegally earned in Israel back to their home countries or the countries they came from, or third countries that Israel had negotiated with to give those people safe haven. The Supreme Court, for the third time, rejected and ruled out the plan. As far as I know, the plan was at least as good as any European plan to incentivize and encourage illegal aliens to go back home. The tunnel vision of the Supreme Court in those cases is always focused on the non-Israeli, on the immigrant, on the terrorist that for some reason is allowed to petition to the Supreme Court, never to the 90-something-year-old Holocaust survivor that was killed by an iron bar. Never.
Excuse me.
Please.
Excuse me, Erez, this is very interesting what you're saying, and I think we can draw many analogies with what's happening in jurisprudence around the world. And I think Professor Volli and Niram will be able to comment on that. What I think the implicit premise of what you're saying is that the law has been divorced from a general justifying aim. As in Italian jurisprudence, they'd call it ratio legis. It's been abstracted. It appears as if they've put up the force field to any sense of context or reason. Professor Volli, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, it was very, very interesting what Erez Modai said. First of all, it's beyond any doubt that in Israel there is democracy. There is a test. Churchill suggests a test for democracy. If 5 o'clock in the morning, someone is tapping on your window strongly, in a democracy, you think it is the milkman or a postman or a neighbor. In a totalitarian system, you are afraid it is the police taking you without reason. So this test, I think, for normal, regular people in Israel is working. Of course, in the 6 and 30 in the morning of October 7, people were more than tapped by terrorists. This is another question, but of course, it's not has nothing to do with the Israeli democracy. So I think the first thing to tell people is Israel, although being in war for 100 years, because the war began before the establishment of the State of Israel, is a democracy. That comes from a deep Jewish idea of democracy. The Jewish community around the world were, in general, during the centuries, ruled in a more or less democratic way. The rabbis were paid and dependent, and the chief of the community were ruled by consensus, more or less. Often they were the wealthiest people, but in general, the idea is it was necessary the consensus, the agreement of people for ruling the Jewish community. And that goes even before God's in the idea that Shaul and David Amelech, the kings of Israel, became kings not only by the choice of God, but after the choice of God, it was necessary the agreement of the population. There was assembly. This is a very, very, very important thing, because it's the idea of the legitimacy of the rule is the idea of popular agreement. This is very, very, very important, and never ever in Israel there was the idea of a government by force of a minorancy. This is not a Jewish idea. This is the first thing. The second thing to reflect about is democracy means government power, crassy, of people, demos. This is the basic idea of democracy. A democracy is the empowerment of the general people, the public, not of one king, not of a small group of oligarchy. It means power of little group, but a general agreement of the population. That means I don't know if it's me. The problem? I don't know. The problem is, of course, there is democracy and there is liberalism. Liberalism is the right of the minority, and democracy is the right of majority. The two principles are together in modern democratic society. There are all liberal democracy. It means power of the majority and right of the minority of the single. This is a delicate balance between these two. The problem is who rules about this balance. Who has the right of judging what is the right point of balance in those two principles? And in this moment, there is a world tendency to minimize the power of the delegates of the people, the elected, the parliament, the Congress in the United States, the Knesset in Israel, and having more and more power, giving more and more power to bureaucracy and to self-appointed groups of power, as the in some way the academia, in some way in Israel more than in other place, the army and the security service and so on. But in the main point of this shift of power is for the judiciary, for the judge. This is very world tendency in this moment. In the United States, there are little judge of Arkansas who can decide that the president of the United States cannot make his politics. In Italy, the same is impossible to put out the immigrants and so on and so forth. In Israel, this is more important for one reason. The Israeli Supreme Court has powers that no one Supreme Court, constitutional court has in the world. The first is the problem, the possibility of receiving direct petitions. In the United States Supreme Court, the Corte Costituzionale in Italy, in Germany, in France, cannot. All the problems must pass through another judge and must have a material reason for asking a decision. a concrete interest. In Israeli system, the Supreme Court can be interpelled by an alien citizen, a party. There are specialized organization for that. This is the first. The second is in the majority of European system, you have a separation between the question about the laws and the question about the governmental acts. You have Supreme Courts and or other institution about the constitutionality of the laws, and then you have other college, other courts, this able to decide if a governmental act is following the law or not. And third, you have a third kind of court, which is the Cour de Cassation in France, la Corte di Cassazione in Italia, and so on, which is able to decide in last instance the concrete cases, the concrete controversial situation. The Supreme Court of Israel put together all that, the three type of judgment: administrative, constitutional, and legal. And more of that has also the ability in practical term of self appoint
perpetuation. It's
self-perpetuation. Yes.
In fact, that is one of the questions I want to raise. They clone themselves. They are a law unto themselves.
Yeah. And that's together is a power beyond any limits. Often they take powers that are not given them by the law. And so there is a big problem in this moment, and the problem is greater because they are in connection with the bureaucracy, with the secret service, and with the army. To make a big question short, what happened in 77, 50 years ago? The Labourist Party, lose elections in front of Begin. And then they had a couple of elections won, but after Barak election in 99, 25 years ago, they never won an election. But this kind of separate bodies, the justice, the secret service, the academy, and the army were able to preserve the old ideology, the leftist ideology, because they had all this kind of self-perpetuation. And so they are trying from 25 years to ignore or to block the will of the people of Israel, as is expressed in the elections, and then in the Knesset, and then in the government. This is the big problem. But this is something very similar of what is happening in Europe, often disqualifying candidates, as in France or Romania, often trying to block the government to make the program because it was winning the election, and so on and so forth. So there is the problem today is the problem to find another time the balance between the powers, the separation of the powers, the fact that the powers must not be overlapped, and the balance between them, keeping the idea that democracy is the power of people, and that there is no such a situation where some very clever group, for instance, judge, for instance, generals, has overcame the judgment of the people. This is the principle of democracy. If that doesn't work, the democracy is dead. This is the problem. But in Israel, there is fight in this moment, as there is in other places. So this is the reason for speaking about it.
Indeed, in Israel it's more pronounced than it is elsewhere. Also, we have a situation which makes this situation more pronounced.
Yeah.
We are in the midst of a war in which certain decisions have not been made due to the interference of the Supreme Court. Niram, let's hear your
I
thought.
think that yes. Do you hear me? Yes, right. So,
yes.
well, the main I would like to ask a question, which is a rhetorical question, and it could sound like a sort of fancy question, or a bit silly question, but it's not. And the question is the following: who rules Israel? Who rules the country? Who really is ruling the country? And it's a very important question, because of course it's a question that involves the balance, as Volli said before, involves the balance between the different powers, and the right balance between the powers, of course, because if we go back to the 17th century and to one of the basic texts of law and of democracy, of the working of democracy and of the working of the law, which is the Esprit des lois by Montesquieu. Montesquieu wrote very clearly that there must be a very fine balance between the judiciary and the executive and the legislative. And this power, this balance is not working very well in Israel. And it's not working very well because we have a situation which is not parallel to any other democracy, any other Western democracy. And it's the overwhelming power of the judiciary. And this goes back, to make a long story short, goes back mainly to what happened in the late 80s, but in the 90s, when there was a sort of a very, very intense and intensive action by the judges, and mainly by a man who is still around and is still very influential, and who has changed very much the face of Israel democracy. And I'm talking about
Niram, perfectly. I wouldn't use the word change here. I think we need to be very correct, very precise. I believe he has tampered with the system.
I agree.
I'm being a little bit.
Okay, I agree with that. He has stamped. I'm talking about Aaron Barak.
Of course. The
I'm
one and
talking
only.
about Okay, Aaron Barak, who has been defined by Israeli pundit Ben Dror Yamini as the imperial rabbi of the law, because this very renowned, internationally renowned uh, uh, expert of the law, of course, is the man who has, as you said, tampered and shaped again the face of Israeli democracy. Not many people know what happened in 1992, for example. In 1992, there was a sort of soft coup d'état at the Knesset when the two of the basic laws of Israel were voted by 1/4 of the parliament. They didn't know what they were doing exactly, so they voted these two laws. And after these two laws were voted, they were sort of Aaron Barak decided that they were a constitution and they could not be changed any longer. So we have this extraordinary extraordinary thing that happened in 1992, because Israel, maybe not all of our audiences knows that Israel doesn't have a constitution. Israel has a set of laws that are called basic laws, which are a constitution, but in progress, let's say so. They're not a constitution which is there in like the Magna Charta, and it's defined once and forever. No, we have laws, but these laws have the power of a constitution in a certain sense. And who has given this power to the laws has been mainly Aaron Barak. Aaron Barak has been called in an article that appeared in 2007 by one of the foremost jurists in the United States, Richard Posner, he called him an enlightened despot. Why enlightened? Because now we go again back to the question I posed at the beginning: who rules Israel? Because in Israel, of course, we have the Knesset, and the Knesset is and the people that are there at the Knesset have been voted by the people, of course. So the most simple answer to the question I made before is the Knesset is ruling the country, the government is ruling the country, but it's not like this, because when we have someone who says, okay, you are enabled to sit at the Knesset, you are enabled to make laws, of course, but we know better than you do what is morally correct, what is morally right. So if we think that the laws that you produce not up to the standards of the morality that we want there to be, then these laws are not going to pass. And so we have this Supreme Court in Israel, which is a sort of Sanhedrin, and it's a self-perpetuating, like in the Indian system, it's a self-perpetuating caste, because we have this. I don't remember if it was Erez or Hugo who mentioned this before. Judges, they inherit can nominate themselves and can perpetuate themselves. And this is something that has nothing to do with other democracies. So we have a sort of state in the state, which is the state of the judges, and we have been seeing this very clearly. We have been seeing very clearly a big clash between the executive and the judiciary in the months before the 7th of October, of course, when we had all those rallies in Israel, people going, blocking streets and shouting that democracy was in danger, that Netanyahu was a sort of a dictator, but that by changing, by reforming, what he was trying to do was, of course, to reform the system. After more than 30 years of not doing anything to reform the system, for the first time we had in Israel, there was in Israel a government which was at least trying to change the system and its dysfunctions. I'm not saying that every thing that that Netanyahu, that the government was proposing in order to change the system was right. It could be perfected, it would be ameliorated, of course, but it
You
was
raise a very good point. You raise a very good point. Democracy is very much a works in progress.
Yeah.
Now, see, the problem with the people who oppose the judicial reform, as if their arguments were premised on things that established a point of no return, which is patently false, because all they would have done, and this they knew wouldn't have happened, is to win elections. You see, they seek recourse to the Supreme Court, and this is the problem. They deprive the notion of sovereignty of the people. You see, even if judicial reform was brought in wholesale, that didn't preclude the situation from being changed once more if a government of a different hue were elected. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Niram?
you are perfectly right. You said it was exactly. Yes, it was. I agree. I agree with what you said, but they made people believe that this was not so. They made people believe that once
Exactly.
that the judicial reform was going to be enacted, then nothing could be changed any longer, and people believed this, and they went in the streets shouting against the reform, shouting against the government, and this for a very simple reason, because this is a very, very strong and entrenched power that has been feeding on itself for decades. And of course, they felt the danger of something that was going to change the system, that was going to change the game.
Indeed.
And they
Indeed.
acted in fear, and they acted very, very violently and very, very strongly against the people who they fear were going seriously to change the game.
Indeed, and they were judging people by their own very own undemocratic standards. That's the problem. They were projecting their lack of democratic sensibilities onto the opposition, onto the ruling party. Vitor, do you want to chip in?
Yeah, so I was just thinking here. I think we live in an era where identities are at stake. So they have been targeted by some global entities, and there are some exceptions, let's say, among the nations, and for sure Israel is one of them, as one of the few examples of nation state. So how much of that, let's say, can Israel offers between, or making it compatible, the modern concept of nation state with the old notion of democracy? Maybe Erez, you can start with this.
I was hoping you would direct the question to me. As I said, Professor Volli's insight was for me very important, that there are centers of power in the academia, in the media, in the army, in the judicial system. They have taken themselves the authority to decide what's right and what's wrong. Now, to an extent, I understand that. And everybody wants to live in a country where someone thinks of you and says, your circumstances are special to the extent that the law doesn't apply or should be adjusted. Everybody wants that. That's the essence of freedom and individuality. But the thing is that the judiciary system has done three things. First of all, it let its own, let's say, values overrule other values. And the one that's I'm most concerned about is the Jewishness of the state of Israel. Because many people, when they talk about the rights of minorities, which in Israel, by the way, are pretty much 100% of the rights, when they talk about minorities and accepting the stranger, the foreign, they are actually undermining the Jewishness of the state of Israel, as the minorities and immigration in Europe undermine the nation states. And we've pretty much seen the concept of multiculturalism fail in Europe. And but still, as our courts are looking west, as I said, they want to implement. The second thing that the judicial system did is not only did they gave precedence or priority for their own views as opposed to the views and wants and wishes of the others, they started to apply the law differentially. And the example is that when people wanted to protest the disengagement in 2006, the judiciary system and the legal consultant to the government said that they will not accept disorderly conduct. This particular legal consultant to the legal advisor to the government said that if a person puts a foot on a road to block it, they will be arrested. That person, that legal advisor, became a supreme judge, and he claims to not have heard about the people from his political camp block major roads in Israel, disrupt order, disrupt life. For him, it's not a problem. Why? Because he decides what's right and what's wrong. And that is the main problem, the way I see it. And I hope that was a good answer to Vitor's question.
Yeah, maybe Hugo, do you want to step in on that question? You are muted.
Yes. The problem is more radical. For people believing in universalism, the state of Israel has not the right to exist. This is the problem, the big problem about Israel. This kind of people are not only people of the United Nations, of the European links. There is a tradition, a Jewish Jewish people of denying the right Israel, of Jewish people to make a state in Middle East. For instance, Hannah Arendt. For instance, Magnus, the
Yoda
first,
Magnus.
yes,
Yes.
the first
Yes.
president. In some way, Buber. There is
There is that element.
see,
We
there
have
is a
that element.
stream of delegitimation of the Jewish character of the state of Israel, which is very, very, very difficult, very, very, very dangerous in the situation where Israel has to resist from the beginning or before the beginning to the war, Arab war for killing of the Jews and taking the territory from the river to the sea. But also in this, Israel is a sort of I don't know the name. Is this small yellow bird.
Canary in the coal mine. The canary in the coal mine.
Yes, but this is true. This bird in the coal mine was so delicate. It was able to show the presence of dangerous gas because it's died suddenly very, very. But this is true for democracy everywhere. The Jews are in a way this kind of bear. But Israel is also a sort of taste of a trend of denying the principle of the national identity in all the West. This is the point, and so the idea of denying the right of the Jewish religion and to allowing the right of Muslim religion, because this is the situation of Tel Aviv, for instance. There was a legal case about the mechitza between men, the ritual division in men and women in the public prayer for the big festivities of the beginning of the last year, and so this kind of people think being a Jew in Israel is a sort of shame, because I read 2 days ago the help of the mayor of Tel Aviv told a journalist, if you have faith in God, you cannot be democratic, because you think there is someone who is always right. This is crazy, but and so, but this is true for them. Just in front of Jewish people, not in front of Muslim people, because Muslim people has the right of minorities, as Erez Modai explained you. And this is a problem also in Italy, also in France, also in the United States. The problem of letting people, illegal alien people to vote is a big problem in the United States, for instance. So to coming back to our big team, I think Israel is showing us the problem of the democracy today in all Western countries. It is a big cultural fight where there is one thing is important. One Well, I think we have to take in account what changed in the last 20 years or so is the fact that the elite, which thinks of itself to be right, illuminated, able to take the right direction and so on, has lost the monopoly of information. This is the big thing. People can through the net, the social media, can have other information and can explain, can discuss, can compose a different majority. And so more and more in all the world, you have this sort of official truth, which is the truth of the media, of the elite in the university, the academia, the elite of the judicial judges, and so on and so forth. And then you have the people which is who is not so sensible to this big intelligence and knowledge and so on, and make its choice. And the choices are different. This is the fight. The possibility of expressing and to deciding, or the necessity to be to follow an elite which knows better. This is the problem.
Very interesting that you mention that. In fact, the short circuit which we are seeing in democracies all over the world is exemplified by what's happening in Israel. We see very much the people who are trying to defend the current status quo speak about the separation of the powers, and that as being something which is at stake. But I would argue that the separation of the powers doesn't entail the disconnection of the powers and the disconnection of the different powers from the people. And I think this is what is present, particularly in the Israeli situation. The Supreme Court is disconnected from the sensibilities of the people and disconnected from the notion that it is the Knesset which passes laws. Niram, your views?
Well, you said it very, very well. I mean, I just can't comment on what you just said, but you made the perfect synthesis of the question exactly. The Supreme Court is something apart, is a state apart, but they think that they have all the right cards. They think that they are endowed with the moral superiority to teach people what is right, as Erez was saying before, what is right and what is wrong. And they don't, because, this is a very patronizing way of approaching life and approaching people. You don't know what is right and wrong because you are not clever enough, you are not cultured enough. We need to tell you what is right and what is wrong.
Little problem with the connection there.
And we are the
little problem with the connection.
We know better than anyone else. Yes, we know better than anyone else, but this goes against the feelings and the natural feelings and behavior of many people. Just before Ugo was talking about identity of Israel, and he was making this contrast between universalism and and nationalism. And this is a very big issue and is a very important issue. And this brought me to my mind, and it's a very old issue, of course, because this goes back to Marxism, and Marx himself was very clear about the so-called Jewish question. He said, well, this is going to be solved completely, because in the new world, when we will pass from the world of necessity to the world of freedom, no one is going to be called a Jew, no one is going to be called this or that. Everyone is going to be a man. There is no alienation who is going to finish. All contradictions are going to be solved. And so this was what was the main approach. So we don't need to think about ourselves in a very parochial, very petty way, because if you think as yourself as possessing a strong identity, this is petty. You need to feel yourself as part of a huge, overwhelming majority. In 1954, Isaac Deutscher, who was a very prominent Marxist, Polish, Jewish writer, wrote a book with the title of the book is emblematic: "The Jew Non-Jew." And because he called him, he thought, well, all that belongs to the tradition of Judaism, all that belongs to this very old story is obscurantism. Is something which is too heavy, and is something which burdens us, and we need to get free of this burden, and we need to be internationalists. He himself called himself an internationalist. So we have this idea also in Israel, which is an idea brought forward by a minority who is very strong in the academia, who is very strong in the judiciary system, and has also quite entrenched in the military system, that Israel must not be too Jewish. It must not be too identitarian, because this is something that belongs to the past. This is something which we need to surpass. It's something that it's not the way history goes. It's not the way that progress goes, because all of these people, they think really, they are absolutely sure that they know where history is heading to.
And they're wrong.
And all those sorry?
And they're wrong.
Yes, they know. And they are wrong. They are wrong, but they have this conviction, which is very, very, very strong in them.
Indeed.
I would like to propose a look forward, because I think that the people who presume to know what's right and what's wrong also presume to know the future and how the future should look like. The problem is that as Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. In Germany of the 30s, the fact that the government looked democratic didn't much interfere with Hitler's plans to become a dictator. Now, the problem is that through multiculturalism and the human rights, etc., the judicial system and the bureaucrats and the left in Israel are bringing in not only masses of people with anti-democratic perceptions, but also those perceptions. For example, if Denmark brings in not only Muslim refugees, but allows them to bring their education system where extreme Islam is taught, then it diminishes its chance or its hope to remain democracy. So actually, if you accept people and those notions and the rights of individuals over the rights of the majority of society, you may think you are very democratic, but in fact, you are watering the seeds of dictatorship, of chaos, of violence, of disobedience, because you allow too much, because you presume to know what's good and what's bad. And like Niram said, in a condescending way, you are trying to tell people how to behave. The problem is they don't. It didn't work in Iraq. It didn't work in Egypt, where the in democratic elections, extreme Muslims were voted in, as they were in Gaza, as they were on the popular spirit in Iran of the 70s, everywhere basically. So if there is the perception and the population who are not inclined towards democracy, then giving them rights and tying democracy's hands to defend itself will ultimately bring the downfall of democracy.
No, I think you make a very important point. The problem is that we see a series of interlocking forces, namely the judiciary, academia, the media, which have shaped this type of reality and of which permitted the type of situation which you have described to take place.
Yes, and also the intervention of foreign powers with billions of dollars and euros to influence and distort public opinion, manipulate it with lies. And unfortunately, I think the judicial system is getting carried away by those waves of progressiveness, of multiculturalism, of self-destruction of democracy, etc., etc.
And among those entities, I know I keep pointing fingers on those guys, but I absolutely hate them, the NGOs. We cannot neglect the influence of the NGOs, especially because they try to come across as a nice organization, but they are probably our most dangerous enemy, especially because people tend to buy their agenda because they present themselves in pinkish colors, but they can be quite nasty. So I always like to bring them to attention.
Sheep's clothing.
Yep, exactly.
Wolves in sheep. I think in the coming months we are going to see. I think President Trump will, and his administration will perhaps reveal information concerning USAID and about their interference in the Israeli elections and also their fueling of the protests against judicial reform.
We hope so. We hope so, and I, as one, think that excuse me, that not only this intervention has damaged the Israeli society, but as evidence show, it also encouraged Hamas to invoke October 7th, to massacre and rape and do all the atrocities because they thought that Israeli society is at a stage that as Hitler said about Russia, you only have to kick the door and the whole house will fall down. That's what Hamas thought about Israel because of all the protests, all the lies, all the dissension, all the arguments. And in that sense, I think that the protest has to assume responsibility and maybe some humility in the sense that they don't understand everything.
I would go even beyond that, Erez. I think when we will have more favorable conditions, I think we may well have to examine the possibility of criminal liability.
Not in this judicial climate.
No, that's what I said. Conditions, when conditions change, I think all the conditions exist for this to be examined, because clearly we have had during the course of the war subversive activity. Indeed, I would say sedition by certain members of the political class. And I think this can be true.
And of the media, if I may say so, because we have 5 main television channels that address political issues. 3 of them are let's call it extreme to super extreme left-leaning. One is, I'd say, pretty much balanced, and only one is lean toward the right side of the political map. They dominate the conversations in the state of Israel. They propagate certain concepts which are even if they are right, in face of not propagating or not even mentioning other points of view, they lead to what we call engineering of public opinion. And falsely so, using spins, using slogans, using I don't want to say anything more extreme, but this is not only unfair, it's dishonest.
Well, clearly very dishonest. Niram, we missed you for a few minutes. Have you managed to grasp the gist? Have you managed to grasp the gist?
Yes. Yes. I did. I was able to. Yes.
Okay. I would also like to suggest something else, because I think we may also need to face the fact that there is an oblique alliance with those who support Palestinism and certain very important and influential elements within the Israeli political and judicial system. I would like to float that possibility. What are your views on that, gentlemen? Whoever wants to take that away.
The judicial override of the political system is sometimes characterized not by myself, but other as not only post-Zionist, but anti-Zionist. The acceptance of refugees from enemy countries, allowing petitions of NGOs that have nothing to do or very little to do with Israel, except for a puppet Arab Israeli citizen in their let's call it the window of the store, and other tendencies that you have to be really stupid, which I believe they're not, in order not to see that this is leading to the demise of Israel as a Jewish country, to the demise of the culture of Israeli Jews.
I believe this has been mentioned before by, sorry, Ugo, go ahead.
No, there is more, I think. Today, Haaretz published a news about 1,000, they say, of pilots in the military pilots of the IAF, signing a document about the legality of the war in this moment, the war in Gaza, and this was republished with much evidence in Arab news journals and so on and so forth. And you cannot make this kind of declaration without thinking that this is an encouragement to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to Iran to go ahead and to persist in the war. So there is I think there is someone in Israel who works following the idea that the real enemy is not Hamas, is not the Iran, is not Hezbollah, and so on and so forth, is Netanyahu.
Indeed.
This is the point. And so
the oblique alliance. The oblique
alliance. And I would like very much to know what Mr. Barr, director of the Shabak, knew the morning, the night of October 6, 2023. Because I suppose he knew something. Was in train of coming, and he decided not to block it in order to make the damaging the government Netanyahu. This is the point. This is the real point of this situation.
This is an idea that a lot of people have thought.
And this is not just this is high treason.
I would like to say that this is.
I would like the Knesset making a law to a special tribunal for high treason, for this deciding what happening in this terrible moment.
The current judicial climate and the media climate is the reason so many Israelis, such as myself, are concerned not that there won't be an investigation committee, but that the committee led under law by a supreme judge will only find against a certain let's say way of thinking that is opposed to their own. And the fact that the Supreme Court is now defending the head of the security service from being fired by the prime minister, who is to whom he is subordinate, serves to me as proof that we cannot trust the current judicial system,
Yeah.
with the enormous task of finding out exactly what, how October 7th came about, who is at fault, which NGOs fueled with money dissent and strengthen Hamas's belief that they will kick out, they will kick the door and the whole house will fall down. Who is it that suppressed information from getting to the prime minister, etc., etc. I really hope that this is extreme negligence. But in order to find that, we need to have a balanced and impartial inquiry entity, not like, may I remind, the Warren Commission that examined the murder of President Kennedy and suppressed evidence and suppressed and decided who it will call for testimony and who not to call, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Niram,
Yes, I would like.
Vitor?
I would just like to add something because maybe not that it has been forgotten, but I would like to recall what happened when the war was going on, still was going on, and the only law that had been approved by the Knesset that was part of the judicial reform, and it was approved in July 2023, was repelled by the president of the Supreme Court, Judge Esther Hayut,
Hayut.
when the war was going
Exact.
on,
Very good point.
and because it was considered not to be a constitutional law. And she did this exactly before her tenure as president of the Supreme Court was going to finish, was going to end. So she knew she had that time. The window was open for her to do what she did, and she did it. And again, so that the only achievement that the Netanyahu government was able to have to present to the electorate in the was repelled by during the war, because they knew they could do it and they did it. So I'm going back to what Erez was just saying before. How can we trust these people presiding an investigation in what happened before the 7th of October? How can we trust these people? It's very difficult.
I think we have to entertain the possibility that we are dealing with the judiciary who consistently and willingly and knowingly have perverted the course of justice for the past 30 years. I think this is something that we need to delve into.
If I may,
go ahead, folks.
If I may, I would like to talk about the judicial agenda. Now, this is considered very extreme to even think about a judge having an agenda, because a judge has to be impartial, has to be balanced. The word agenda was introduced to the dialogue or the discussion by the president of the Supreme Court, Aaron Barak himself, when he torpedoed the nomination of a well-respected professor because, quote unquote, she didn't have the right agenda.
Ruth Gavison.
Right, exactly. And this means if she didn't have the right agenda, it means that everybody else in the Supreme Court has, which means they have an agenda, which means they are not impartial.
Of course. which is quite overwhelming now.
Vitor, any?
I think we can come to conclusions now in 90 minutes. So there was a lot of food for thought in this conversation. Democracy is a complex concept, and there's no exception in the Middle East. And Israel is facing a lot of issues, as we could see, not only from the neighbor country, but also within their own territory. And it's not that simple, but maybe there'll be some battles that are not always visible, but they're going to be crucial to define what's next on Israel. So it's a very large discussion. It's not easy to get, of course, into a consensus here, but I think there is a will of the people that will lead the country to democracy. So I think there are some motives to be optimistic along or among the concerns. That's what I would conclude with. So I want to thank again our dear guest, Professor Ugo Volli. You are a newcomer, but you are always welcome to return. Erez Modai, I think I lost count the amount of times, number of times I was here, but I always enjoy more and more.
Thank you for having me.
And the same applies to Niram, who is now also recurrent in these in the sessions and always providing us with fabulous insights. So I want to thank you for your view, and also to Marco, who is back after a week of absence. So it's nice to see you back, because as I said last time, when you are around, I don't need to talk that much. So that sometimes it's good to be off duty.
Good to be back.
Thanks again, guys. I just want to also thank the viewers, because they're also part of the podcast. Now, it's not just us. Without you guys, you wouldn't be here. We like this to be interactive. You want to hear your comments. If you didn't get any conclusions, the chat box is still open. Let's say if you want to write a comment tomorrow, like myself or Marco will pick it up and we'll reply or say something about your words, because this is not something that you can digest in 10 minutes. So the chat box is open. Also, there are a couple of other buttons there that are very helpful for us to distribute the content, share and like. So if you know someone who hasn't followed the conversation today, this is stored on YouTube, so they can always watch it tomorrow or this weekend or next week or whenever they have time. So I want to thank again you guys for your insights, and for the viewers, and hope we'll see each other next Wednesday around the same time. So have a good night, and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks.